Welcome to the Majestic Truth Podcast. Join us as we delve into the mysteries of the universe, explore the unexplained, and shed light on some of the most important events that have occurred and are occurring in our world today. Get ready to open your mind, expand your horizons, and discover the extraordinary. This is the Majestic Truth Podcast. And now your host, Michelle.
Welcome back, truth seekers, to another episode of the Majestic Truth Podcast, the show that explores the most intriguing mysteries and unexplained phenomena from our world and beyond. I'm your host, Michelle, and today we will be exploring the Kecksburg UFO incident of 1965. Now, before we kick off the show here, head on over to majestictruth.com/episode 22 to see the overview of this particular episode. Now, let me give you an event summary. December 9th, 1965, a brilliant fireball suddenly illuminated the sky, captivating the attention of citizens from 6 states and Canada. Eyewitnesses described the fireball as an extraordinary sight. Its intense glow painted streaks across the heavens, leaving no doubt that something out of the ordinary had occurred. Panic mixed with awe as people gathered on the streets and sidewalks to witness this celestial spectacle unfold before their very eyes. News quickly spread throughout both countries about this phenomenon. Phone lines buzzed with excited voices recounting what they had seen. The media rushed to cover this unprecedented event, attempting to capture its essence through photographs and interviews with astonished witnesses. While many marveled at the spectacle above them, others couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. They wondered if there could be more to this fireball than met the eye. Little did they know that their questions would soon find answers in an unexpected turn of events later that same night. As if fate had planned it all along, just hours after witnessing the mesmerizing fireball in the sky, residents of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania found themselves engulfed in yet another inexplicable occurrence. Eyewitnesses reported seeing an unidentified object hurtling through the atmosphere before crashing into a nearby forest. The crash sent shockwaves throughout Kecksburg's tight-knit community. Fear mingled with curiosity as locals made their way toward where they believed this mysterious object had come to rest. But upon arrival at the crash site, they were met with confusion and bewilderment. What lay before them was not what they had expected. Instead of a clear answer to the enigma that had unfolded before their eyes, they found themselves staring at a dense thicket of trees, concealing any visible trace of the crash. Yet eyewitness accounts remained unwavering in their conviction that something extraordinary had indeed fallen from the sky. Whispers began to circulate among Kecksburg's residents, suggesting that there might be more to this incident than met the eye. Rumors spoke of shadowy government involvement and a possible cover-up. According to witnesses, military personnel swiftly arrived at the crash site, cordoning off the area and removing any evidence that could hint at an extraterrestrial presence. This alleged government intervention only fueled speculation and conspiracy theories among those seeking answers. People questioned why such secrecy would surround a mere crash if it were not for something significant and otherworldly being involved. The veil of secrecy cast over Kecksburg deepened suspicion and intensified the public's desire for truth. The Kecksburg incident left investigators and researchers intrigued, yet frustrated by its elusive nature. Determined to uncover the truth behind and hidden beneath layers of mystery, they set out on a mission to gather every piece of information available. Interviewing witnesses who claimed to have seen or heard something unusual became paramount in their search for, answers. Each testimony was meticulously analyzed with investigators, attempting to find common threads that could help assemble a clearer picture of what transpired on that fateful night. Photographs taken by eyewitnesses also underwent rigorous examination under expert scrutiny. Every minute detail, was scrutinized in an effort to decipher any hidden clues within these visual records. Additionally, researchers combed through historical records and scientific literature in search of comparable incidents or evidence that would lend credence to the possibility of extraterrestrial involvement. The investigation into the Kecksburg incident became an all consuming quest for understanding, as those involved tirelessly sought to shed light on the mysteries that lay shrouded in the Pennsylvania woods. All right, let's load up some newspaper articles. This first one is from the Los Angeles Times, Friday, December 10th, 1965. Mystery fireball blazes erupt in 2 states. Lake Erie, skylit by flash. Cleveland, a brilliant fireball flashed across the sky over Lake Erie near dusk Thursday, and particles of the unidentified object apparently caused fires at scattered points in Ohio and Pennsylvania. The bright flash was seen in Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Some small grass fires broke out in wooded areas at the west edge of Elyria, about 20 miles west of Cleveland. A small fire in the woods just outside Kecksburg in southwest Pennsylvania also was reported. No major damage. At Elyria, the fire department said there were about 10 fires in an area of about 1,000 square feet. Lieutenant Jack Trumbull said the pattern led him to believe they could have been touched off by a fireball or meteorite, which shattered as it hit the ground. The fires were extinguished quickly, and there was no major damage. Mrs. Ralph Richards said she saw a fiery object fall among the trees near her home shortly before the fires erupted. She said it was of volleyball size. In southwestern Pennsylvania, persons in the rural Kecksburg area reported seeing flashes of blue light near the ground in a wooded area. And later, 2 small boys said they saw smoke curling up from a woods in the same area. State troopers and 2 Air Force men checked the wooded sections for hours using Geiger counters, but they said they found nothing and called off the search. Trail of smoke. Erie, PA residents far to the north of Kecksburg reported seeing a flash of light followed by a bright trail of smoke. Federal Aviation Agency spokesman there speculated it was a meteor. Early reports of possible airplane crashes, rocket firings, or aerial explosions were not confirmed. The fiery object brought thousands of calls to police agencies and news media. In Lapeer, Michigan, Sheriff Kenneth A. Parks said his office received a report that an unidentified object had fallen into a field about a half-mile south of Lapeer. Parks said deputies dispatched to the area found nothing except a couple of handfuls of shiny metallic foil, each piece about 4 to 6 inches long and about a quarter-inch wide. Connection unknown. Parks said he did not know whether the foil had any connection to the reported fireball. He said similar material was found once before in the area 2 years ago. He added the deputies abandoned any further research because of darkness. Parks added that the pilot of a small plane reported sighting 4 or 5 small fires in an isolated area 6 miles southwest of Lapeer. In Washington, a Defense Department spokesman said initial reports indicated the fireball was a natural phenomenon. He said all military hardware, aircraft, missiles, and the like were accounted for, and that at this time, any investigation would be of a routine nature only. Both the Pentagon and the FAA said they had no plans to send investigators to the field. And how about this article from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette from December 6, 2015, titled, "The Kecksburg UFO is Identified," in parentheses, probably. This is from 2015, like you said. So they've covered what they potentially think is, a theory for what happened in Kecksburg. Mystery cloaked the strange object that fell into Westmoreland County 50 years ago, by Dan Majors. 50 years after the famous Kecksburg UFO streaked across the December sky and landed in a wooded hollow, two Westmoreland County researchers have put forth a theory that they say explains it. The unidentified flying object that came down December 9th, 1965, they say, was a General Electric Mark II reentry vehicle that had been launched by the Air Force as a spy satellite but fell out of orbit. Authorities at the time, however, said it was a meteorite. That official claim has been challenged but never changed. Researchers consider the Kecksburg UFO one of the great unsolved mysteries, and people in the tiny town of Kecksburg still talk about it. Witnesses who saw it before, members of the military, swooped in and took it away, say it was not a meteor, but a craft of some kind. The years have muddled a few recollections, but accounts at the same time agree on several points. It was 4:47 p.m. when it came out of the sky from the northwest, a flaming object from over Canada, Ohio, and into western Pennsylvania. It appeared to be guided, changing its path and making a level descent away from residential areas and into the woods of Kecksburg. The first people on the scene said it was partly buried in the ground. It was made of metal between 10 and 12 feet long and generally shaped like an acorn. There were strange markings on a band near the bottom that resembled hieroglyphs. The military was on the remote scene within an hour, and by 8 p.m., it was gone, hauled away on the back of an Army flatbed truck. John Venter, state director of the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, did not begin earnestly looking into the Kecksburg mystery until this year, he said, because so many others already were on the case. But Shafton native Owen Eichler, who had spent decades investigating it, came to him in February with a theory and some evidence that seemed to add up, and the two joined forces. Their research put forth in a report with the title, "Has a Top 5 UFO Case Been Solved?" Question. Suggests the vehicle was launched from Johnston Island in the Pacific 2 days earlier as part of America's top secret program for spying on the Soviet Union from space. Of course, no one ever admitted it, that they were spying on Russia, Mr. Venter said, offering an explanation as to why the object was taken away and never explained. The night it landed, Mr. Eichler was a 13-year-old boy in December 1965 playing baseball in a field when he saw the predominantly green glowing object with wisps of yellow, purple, and orange colors shoot across the sky. Hundreds of others saw the object, and thinking that it might be a plane on fire or not knowing what to think, many called authorities. Greensburg resident Stan Gordon, who would grow up to be a noted UFO researcher, was 16 and listening to a program on KDKA radio when the host began taking calls from witnesses. John Hayes was 10 and playing football when the object landed. Despite the fact that his family lived nearby, he did not see it. But when I went in the house, my dad had the radio on and they said something crashed in Acme, he said. Then Mom was looking out the window and said, "It's not in Acme, it's right out there. Look at all the cars out." Across the hill, there was activity all over the place. The first people on the scene were the curious neighbors. Then came the volunteer firefighters and police. They were followed by reporters. Then there were reports of military personnel coming in, Mr. Gordon said. What struck the residents of Kecksburg and investigators to this day was how quickly armed military men, more than 24 of them, arrived on the scene, taking charge and chasing people away. The U.S. government claimed they were never tracking it, which makes no sense, Mr. Venter said. They had to be tracking it. The Canadian radar was tracking it. Mr. Hayes saw the military men up close because they set up their command center in his family's 2-story house overlooking the woods. The site offered them a view of the area as well as a working telephone. Mr. Hayes' upstairs bedroom offered a good view of the authorities coming and going. I couldn't see down into the hollow where they were, but I did see 6 guys in radiation suits take a box down. I didn't see them bring it back out. Some witnesses said the authorities warned them away from the area because of a risk of radiation from the object. Others were just ordered to leave at gunpoint and did so. Former Post-Gazette reporter Ernie Hoffman, 76, of Hempfield, was working the night shift in Greensburg when he and a photographer were sent to the scene. Mr. Hoffman arrived in time to see military men taking an object away on the back of a flatbed truck, but his account differs from some of the other witness recollections. It was not a 10 to 12-foot object, he recalled. It was small, the size of 2 suitcases. But Jerry Betters, a Pittsburgh jazz vocalist who died in 2007, told investigators it was larger than that, and the military truck carrying it had a white star on the door. He drew a picture of it and had it notarized. Whatever it wasn't in Kecksburg very long, and where it went, nobody who was talking knows for sure. Most investigators believe it was taken to a hangar at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, where one witness claims to have seen what appeared to be a small body on a gurney next to it. The witness told Mr. Gordon that there was an arm hanging down. It had 3 digits and lizard like skin, Mr. Gordon said he was told. Mr. Venter is skeptical. Personally, I'm rooting for the UFO evidence since I'm with the Mutual UFO Network, he said. But I really have to say that we have an extremely good theory that this was a spy satellite. Some people believe that the object was a Russian satellite called Cosmos 96, but Mr. Venter and Mr. Gordon agreed that the likelihood of that was probably debunked by a 2003 investigation by journalist Leslie Keane for the Sci-Fi Channel. Armed with a Freedom of Information challenge and an interview with an expert at the NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, Ms. Keane determined that Cosmos 96 came down over Canada earlier the same day as the Kecksburg UFO. But while Ms. Keane might have eliminated one possibility, she couldn't nail down what it was. A few have suggested, based on the size and shape of it, that it might have been the Nazi Bell, a World War II era experimental related to gravity and time travel. There's many theories out there, and I keep an open mind to all possibilities, said Mr. Gordon, who in 2004 produced Kecksburg, The Untold Story. I've always said this thing was either a very secretive, very advanced man-made space vehicle, or it was extraterrestrial. In the 50 years I've been doing this, I've looked at all sorts of American and Soviet objects, and nothing ever seemed to fit the description of what we saw in Kecksburg. That was the same stumbling block Mr. Eichler said he kept encountering until sometime after 1991, when he discovered newly released government documents about the GE Mark II reentry vehicle. This vehicle was in the nose cone of the Thor, Atlas, and Jupiter rockets in the early 1960s, and it was upside down, which means that the cone section was embedded in the vehicle. Everybody was looking for a nose cone with a point, and that's what threw us for many, many years. I researched so many vehicles of the time period, mostly Russian and American, and we couldn't find any that matched what we seen and what was seen in Kecksburg until we learned that the reentry vehicle was inverted in the nose cone. That was the aha moment. The size and shape appears similar to the Kecksburg UFO. Other points made by Mr. Eichler and Mr. Venter include: 1. The GE vehicle had 4 control jets, which would explain the controlled turning and descent that witnesses described. 2. One of the metals in its construction was copper, which would explain the green flames people saw. 3. Photos of the reentry vehicle seemed to show markings that might have seemed foreign to civilian observers, so that's why it looked like hieroglyphs. Another significant thing we believe is that this thing had a nuclear or atomic generator in it, and when that hit, they had to get out of Kecksburg before they had a radiation leak. That's why they were there so quick. That's why there were guys in radiation suits with a letterbox going into the woods. They had to get that and make sure it was not leaking before they drove it out onto the turnpike. All the characteristics in our report match up with the Kecksburg UFO. So we're putting this out there and hoping it will get picked up, and maybe some people who know something will finally, after all these years, step forward and give us some answers. Each July, the Earthlings in Kecksburg host a UFO festival where they have a lot of fun and raise a little money for the volunteer fire department. Ron Struble, 73, who remembers seeing the streak in the sky from his home in Greensburg, organizes the event and oversees the tiny UFO store in the VFD hall. It was Mr. Struble who convinced the makers of Unsolved Mysteries in 1990 to let Kecksburg keep the styrofoam mock-up of the UFO they used. It is on display outside of the fire hall, while it still attracts visitors. So let us know what you think at truth@majestictruth.com. I mean, this seems like it could be an explanation, and we have to look at all theories, right? And draw our own conclusions. But we have to look at all theories, and this seems like it could be a pretty good one. So, give that a look and send us some feedback at truth@majestictruth.com. So Let's talk a little bit about the government cover up aspect of this incident. As news of the crash spread, residents reported military personnel swiftly descending upon the crash site. Witnesses claimed they saw soldiers securing the area and removing any evidence that could point to an extraterrestrial presence. The strange disappearance of these military officials only fueled suspicions among locals and conspiracy theorists alike. In a time where trust in government institutions was already wavering, many found it easy to believe that authorities were hiding something significant from them. The notion that there could be more to this event than met the eye sparked curiosity among investigators and researchers who sought answers beyond mere speculation. The eyewitness testimonies painted a vivid picture, a fireball streaking across the sky before crashing into Kecksburg's dense forest land. Some described hearing strange noises emanating from deep within those woods, noises unlike anything they had ever encountered before. But alongside this excitement came frustration for those who sought definitive answers. The lack of transparency from government agencies regarding their involvement fueled suspicions of an ongoing cover up. This frustration only added fuel to the fire, further entrenching individuals on both sides of this debate. This brings us to the search for answers. As news of the mysterious crash in Kecksburg spread, investigators and researchers were drawn to the small Pennsylvania town like moths to a flame, right? Fueled by curiosity and armed with determination, these intrepid individuals embarked on a quest to interview witnesses and search for any clues that might shed light on the enigmatic incident. They knew that piecing together this puzzle would not be easy, but they were willing to devote themselves to uncovering the truth. As investigators delved deeper into testimonies from witnesses, patterns began to emerge. Many witnesses described seeing an unidentified object resembling an acorn or bell-shaped craft crash into a nearby forest. The consistency of these descriptions lent credence to their accounts and fueled speculation about extraterrestrial visitation. As investigators presented their findings to the public, debates raged on about what truly happened in Kecksburg. Skeptics dismissed it as mere speculation or conspiracy, while others embraced the idea of extraterrestrial life visiting Earth. The clash between believers and skeptics created a schism within society, with some fearing that acknowledging such events would undermine established beliefs and institutions. The aftermath of the incident. In the months following the crash, numerous witnesses came forward with their own accounts and experiences from that fateful night. Some claimed to have seen military personnel quickly arriving at the crash site, removing evidence of an extraterrestrial presence. These reports fueled rumors about a possible government cover up, of course, adding another level of mystery to an already perplexing event. Investigators and researchers were determined to uncover the truth behind the Kecksburg incident. They conducted interviews, analyzed photographs, and scoured every inch of the crash site in search of any clues that could shed light on what really happened. However, despite mounting evidence and growing public interest, the government maintained its stance of denial. Sound familiar? Official statements attributed the crash to a meteorological phenomenon or a Russian satellite reentry. This only fueled conspiracy theories and deepened public distrust in official explanations. Decades later, people still discuss and debate what truly happened on that chilly December night in Kecksburg. The legacy of this UFO incident lives on as new generations continue to explore its implications for our understanding of life beyond Earth. The aftermath of the Kecksburg incident left both excitement and frustration in its wake. Those who had tirelessly pursued answers reveled in their discoveries, believing they had uncovered concrete evidence of extraterrestrial visitation. Yet, they also faced resistance from skeptics who refused to accept anything beyond conventional explanations. Decades later, as people continue to discuss and debate what truly happened in Kecksburg on that fateful night in 1965, its legacy remains firmly imprinted on our collective consciousness. The ongoing exploration into this UFO incident has shaped our understanding of life beyond Earth and challenged us to question our place in the vast cosmos. Send me your thoughts to truth@majestictruth.com. I'd love to hear from you. All right, truth seekers, that concludes this episode of Majestic Truth. For more information on this episode about the Kecksburg UFO incident of 1965, visit majestictruth.com/episode 22. I hope you've enjoyed exploring the depths of the unknown with us today. Remember, the pursuit of truth and the quest for knowledge are ongoing journeys. So stay curious, stay open-minded, always follow your dreams, and keep seeking those answers. And if you have your own theories or stories to share about UFOs and other conspiracies, reach out to us on social media or email us at truth@majestictruth.com. Don't forget to mark your calendars and set your alarms because our next episode will be available in 2 weeks on your favorite podcast app. Trust us, you won't want to miss it. Until then, keep your eyes in the skies, your mind open, and remember, the truth is out there.
For updates, behind-the-scenes content, and a chance to engage with fellow truth seekers, stay connected with us on social media. Find us on Twitter at TruthSeekerPod, Instagram at Majestic Truth Seekers, and TikTok at Majestic Truth Seekers. Thanks for listening.